Hi everyone. Thanks for joining me for our nightly bunk time devotion. My name is Brandon, and I hope you've been having a good time participating in our virtual junior camp week so far here at Sylvan Hills. I know it's been a pretty crazy time, and none of us really could have predicted the situation we'd be in with not being able to meet this summer at Sylvan Hills, but I'm grateful that we have the resources to still be able to connect. I've been going to Sylvan Hills since I was about 4 years old. So it's a place that's really important to me, and it's one of my favorite places on earth. I have a lot of great memories of, doing the slip and slides and the high ropes courses, and a lot of great food out there for sure. But most importantly, just the relationships that I've built along the way that will literally last a lifetime with my friends from out there, and most importantly, the relationship with Christ that I've developed out there. It's been a very influential place in my life. So. I'm just thankful again that you guys are able to connect with us during a time that's a little bit uncertain. We don't really know what the future holds, but thank you for connecting with us and allowing us to keep talking about what God's doing in our life. So I wanted to share a little devotion with you this evening, and from what I understand, your lesson today was about Isaac and Abraham, and I really like this passage because I think it's a good example of a couple different things. The first being that despite how crazy things can get in life, all the circumstances going on, we always have a choice. And if you think about Abraham in the passage, being in a tough spot, probably feeling pretty scared and confused about, not sure if he was going to be giving up his son and what that meant for him. He could have very easily decided, just to ignore God's calling and what He wanted him to do, but he made the choice to follow God. And I believe I've seen it in my life, and I think if Abraham were still around, he would support by saying that, when we choose to trust God in those hard moments, that He will always honor that, and it might not always look the way that we expect it to, but sooner or later, God will honor those choices when we decide to follow Him. And then the second thing I like about that passage, it's going to piggyback a little bit into another one, is that God is always working in our lives, even when we can't see it. And for the sake of the lesson we had this morning, God's bigger plan is always in motion, even when we can't see it. We can see that in the passage with Abraham and Isaac, going up the mountain, Abraham preparing to sacrifice Isaac. God's bigger plan was kind of in motion all along. And, when He provides the ram, He spares Isaac's life and is able to fulfill His promise like He always does of blessing Abraham and making him a great nation for His name's sake. And so there was another passage I wanted to share with you guys, and it comes from Mark 16, verses 1 through 4. And this is the story of the resurrection, when Jesus was crucified on the cross and buried for 3 days, and a few people show up to the tomb and realize that He's resurrected. So I'm just going to share that with you, starting in verse 1. So when the Sabbath was past, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome bought spices so that they might go and anoint Him. And very early on the first day of the week, when the sun had risen, they went to the tomb. And they were saying to one another, "Who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance of the tomb?" And looking up, they saw that the stone had been rolled back. It was very large. And so the rest of the passage talks about how, they come to find that Jesus' body isn't there after He's risen at that point, and then He reveals Himself, and as they say, the rest is history. But I think the two most important words from that passage are in verse 4, and they're easy to overlook, but the words are "had been," meaning that the stone had been rolled away, past tense. So if you imagine how Mary and Salome might have been feeling on their way to the tomb, similar to times where in our life where we feel a lot of uncertainty, we have a lot of things that we're worrying about. In that moment where they were worried about who's going to roll the stone away from the tomb, Scripture says that God had already rolled the stone away from the tomb. So in the times that we're worried about a lot of things that we can't control in our life, in those moments God has already worked ahead of things that we can't even see. And so that's been a really re-encouraging, reassuring thing for me in my life when things are hard and I feel like there's things I'm worried about that I can't control. I think back to what Mary and Salome might have felt at that point, where they were unsure about going back to find Jesus, but God was already working ahead in their life before they can even see it. So I hope that's encouraging for you and a lesson that you can kind of keep with you for times when, things are kind of crazy around you. You can be, rest assured in the promises that God gives us that He's never going to leave us and He's always going to be there for us. So I thank you again for connecting with us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your virtual junior camp week. And take care. Stay safe.